My name is Jamie Lee, and today I'll be doing a review of the series Sullivan's Crossing, streaming here in Australia on Stan and everywhere else, I believe, on the CW channel. Now, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that the whole reason why I started watching this show is because I saw Chad Michael Murray by this stunning lake in the trailer, muscle shirt on, just chopping up wood in this beautiful landscape. It was like straight from my dreams onto the screens. I'm guilty of that, fine. But it took me by surprise. I ended up being so emotionally invested in these characters and in their story, and I really hope that there's a season 2 because we were left on such a cliffhanger. I just became so invested in this. It's really cute, really charming. It was such a quick watch. Like, I just ended up binging it because I was just so invested in these characters and where they go with this story. This TV series is actually based off a 5-part book series by Morgan Kohan, and she's the same author who wrote the Virgin River book series as well. And we know how much of a hit that show is over on Netflix. So they also have another book coming out January next year. So I'm really curious to see that if the Friendship Club, I think it's called. So I'm really curious to see that if Sullivan's Crossing takes off and gets the hype and people really enjoy this show, if they'll turn that other book into a series as well. But let's talk about this one first because I really love this series. So the filming location for this was in Canada, and you could just watch this series purely for the setting alone because it's so stunning to look at. You are based on a campsite, so you've got like the cabins near the woods, you've got the forest, and then you've got this stunning lake, and it's featured throughout the show, so you get to see a lot of those locations. And there's like a small general store, there's small cabins. It's just a small town, and it gives off those cozy, homey, like a real warm community vibe. That's the vibe that it gives off just from the location alone. The story is a little bit slow to start off with, but you soon become invested in these characters because the further into it you go, the more complex these characters become. You know, we get these backstories with them, we see how they're linked to one another, we just find out so much more about their past and what they want from their futures. And yeah, as I said, you just become quickly invested and you want to find out, you know, how they're going to overcome this conflict or what happened to make them feel this way and whatnot. The main character in our story is Maggie Sullivan, played by Morgan Kohan. She is a neurosurgeon in Boston. So she lives this really pressured, really busy life, the city lifestyle. And there's a scandal at her work where she's forced to take a step back and she needs to lay low for a little bit. So she decides to reconnect with her past and go and stay with her father, Sully, played by Scott Patterson, who runs that laid-back campsite that I was just explaining before, how it feels so homey and so warm and there's a sense of community. He runs that campsite and also the general store. So that's her home. That's where she grew up. So it's very different change of pace, I guess, for her, going from this big city lifestyle to this laid back one. So that alone is a really big change for Maggie, but also for us to see those two different lifestyles play out on screen. This move causes old memories to arise between the pair. And again, I was invested, hoping, longing that they're going to repair their relationship and become father and daughter again. And throughout you get the answers to what caused the friction to begin with. Why are they at ends with each other and why can't they get along? On top of that, Sully has his own complex subplot, I guess you could call it. You know, he's got financial struggles and other things going on with his personal life that doesn't include Maggie either. So he's got his own little thing going on top of Maggie's issues. Included in Maggie's struggles is her relationship with her long-term partner, Andrew. So he wants to move on with the next stages of their life, like buying a house, having kids, things like this, settling down. She's hesitant, and that makes things really messy, especially when Cal Jones comes in the picture, this lonely hiker. You know, he's isolating himself at this cabin, and we've got this mystery as to why he's there, why he's so mysterious. It's really, really good, really interesting, and there's a big conflict between the two of them. Very similar to Sully, we see Cal's backstory, and I love that they didn't rush this. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they're pairing people up or tearing people apart just yet. It just feels like they're really setting that good foundation for what's going to come into season 2. But I really loved having Cal as a mystery and just learning little bits about him as the episodes go on. The main dilemma in Maggie's life is the conflict at her work. So she's been accused of something and she has to go through this court case. So she's got that fear of losing her license, losing her job, not being able to work again, and feeling like she isn't even qualified enough, like feeling like she failed in her job and in her career. So she's got that playing on her mind, and her skills are really put to the test when she's at Sullivan's Crossing, because there's a few issues, a few medical things that go wrong, and she's put to the test to see if she's still able to do the job that she once was able to do prior to these accusations at her workplace. And what I loved about the events that happened at Sullivan's Crossing to do with Maggie, like actually putting her skills to the test, I love the comparison between at Sullivan's Crossing and at Boston. At Boston, she wasn't humane. She didn't feel personal or emotional or caring towards her patients. She saw them as a patient, not as a person. And that became a different reality when she was at Sullivan's Crossing, and she had to use those skills from her workplace on people that were pretty much like family to her. Like they were all one big community, one big family. It really made things seem more emotional, and she was more attached to these people, which I guess opened her eyes a little bit to how she was living in Boston and, you know, her workplace and how she treated people differently there in comparison to at Sullivan's Crossing. So I thought that was good to really open her eyes a little bit more. Everything that I've mentioned there heavily focuses on Maggie being the center of that story, but there's many other characters in this show that also have their own little side plots going on. You know, they've got things happening, or we get backstories, or people link in different ways. And I thought that was really great to break up all the conflicts and all the struggles from our main character. So I thought that was really good. In the show, we have Frank and Edna, who give off sort of grandparent vibes, I would say, to Maggie. They are played by Tom Jackson and Andrea Menard, and they run the general store that Sully owns at the campsite, and they bring a indigenous culture to the show, so that's very unique to this series as well. And then you've got the younger generation, so you've got hikers Caleb, played by Callum McDonald, and Jackson, who began a relationship together, and that brings that LGBT aspect into the show. And that extends even further to conflicts between Jackson's parents and how they deal with lesbian and gay relationships within this series. Then there's a subplot with Sydney, played by Lindura, and her brother Rob, played by Reed Pierce. They own the diner, and they've got some conflicts with co-parenting, I guess you could say. They're brother and sister, but they parent Rob's son Finn, which causes problems for Sydney because she's trying to figure out what she should do in life and where she wants to go with regards to relationship and career and things like that, not just parenting her nephew. So there's a big conflict with that as well. And then we have Lola, played by Amalia Williamson. She has a really important and really interesting backstory, so I can't wait to see where they take her character in season 2. But overall, I loved all of these characters. All of them seem genuinely warm and likable. There's no real villain in the series. Everybody is different in their own way, and they all have their own struggles and conflicts going on, but none of them are unlikable. Like every character in this I've liked. So I'm really interested to see if there does become a villain in the further seasons that we hopefully get, or if they are generally just likable and have these little issues that they overcome themselves. I don't know, but I'm curious to find out. Season 1 ends on a major cliffhanger. 2 probably major cliffhangers. There's 2 really big things that at the end of this leave you firstly very emotional. I was really emotional in this. I cried a lot. I always cry a lot, but I really cried a lot in a series that I didn't expect to cry a lot in, because I didn't expect to be that emotionally invested in these characters, but I was. So yeah, the 2 cliffhangers at the end I was very emotional with, and I was really hoping, I still am really hoping, that we get a season 2. And as I said, there's 5 books in this book part series, so maybe we might get 5 seasons out of it. I'm not too sure, but I definitely hope we get a season 2 so that we can get closure for those 2 major cliffhangers that we were left with at the end there. Let me know in the comment section if you have heard of this series before. I've talked to a few friends and none of them have heard about it, so I'm really curious to see. If you haven't, search it up because you might like it. I really didn't think much of it, and as I said, I became emotionally invested in the characters. The story is really interesting, and I feel like there's so much more story to tell, and what I would like to see in the next seasons is a little bit more happiness. Like there's lots of tragedies and lots of conflict, and everything is so tense and kind of sad. you know, like all of their backstories, when you think about all of them, it's kind of sad. So I hope that we get to see a little bit more joy, a little bit more happiness, because we're so invested in them. And I just want to see them all happy because they're also likable. But yeah, let me know in the comment section if you're going to watch this one, or if you have already, let me know. And if you're not already, please subscribe to my channel and then head on over to my gaming channel and give me a sub over there. And the links in the description are to my socials. So make sure you head on over to my socials and give me a follow over there as well, please. Okay, sweetas, have a good day. Bye.